Today we are on episode 30, drinking too much wine or colas. Well, today, as it turns out, the viewer that we have, we're actually going to be working on her excessive drinking of smoothies. And what's interesting about smoothies is we're told how good they are for us. So Helena's going to bust that myth in a little bit. I'm Dana J. Smithers. I am one of the Emotion Code Divas. Helena Janikin is the other Emotion Code Divas. We are certified Emotion Code practitioners, but we also have other tools in our toolkit. So I'm also a Law of Attraction coach, as well as being a Discover Your Sacred Gifts guide. So, and also just been learning Reiki, so I'm tapping into that universal life force energy, which helps me a lot with doing emotion code as well. So on today's show, as usual, we're going to educate, inspire, hopefully inspire. And we're going to be working on someone today. The person I'm working on, her name is Chris, and she has gone through a grieving process. She recently lost, or earlier on in the year, lost her dog. So she found that since then, you know, she's got the heartbreak, the grieving, and she's reaching for the smoothies for her to find comfort. And we know that that doesn't really work. So Helena's going to talk a lot about that. So go ahead and introduce yourself, Helena.
Good morning, Dana. It's Helena Janikin. I'm a certified emotion code practitioner as well as a certified clinical hypnotherapist. I help people that want to release weight, help them stop smoking with hypnosis and the emotion code, also relieve anxiety. And lately I've been focusing in and seeing a lot of clients about dental anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
It's been really, it's been very rewarding, actually.
Yeah, that's just great. So what we're going to do, as we usually do, is just go through quickly the 7 keys to conducting an emotion code session if you're not familiar with it. Both Helena and I are trained from Dr. Bradley Nelson. This is the book. You can purchase it. Everything that we're going to talk about is in this book. There's lots of case studies. There's techniques of different muscle testing and all of that. So it's a good book. It is, this is where I started. You know, I started practicing on myself, but what I found really made the difference for me is when I actually hired a professional emotion code practitioner. For some reason, doesn't quite work the same when you work on yourself. And I know other colleagues of mine have said the same thing, that it's good to reach out to someone, you know, that we know in our circle that can do a session for us as well. So let's go ahead and talk about the first key, which is permission. So what's that all about, Helena?
Permission is before we do any work with anyone, we want their permission that we can begin the work. And that also just prevents us from working on strangers that we see out in the street or the shop or children or animals. So we always need people's permission before we do the emotion code work.
Right. So you can imagine how we feel if we're out someplace and maybe it's a fast food place, and you know, we're looking at somebody that's maybe got 2 of the big drinks, and you know, they're always saying supersize me, right? It's kind of become a bad word, but usually they'll ask you, do you want this or that? And you know, there's the temptation, right, to, yeah, go ahead, okay, it's maybe 50 cents more. They do it in the theaters a lot too. I notice that they're trying to get me to get this massive drink, right? And then do I want the candy and the big bag of popcorn? It's like, well, no, you know, but if you're not kind of calm and centered and focused and already know what you want, it can happen, right? Emotions take over. Yeah, I can have that, or let's throw in some Twizzlers, you know, or something else with it. So yeah, so we can't just stop somebody in a lineup and say, you might want to think about that, right? It would just be wrong. So we don't do that, but we do become their proxy. So we have their permission, and how does that work, Helena?
So a proxy is their permission that we can tap into their subconscious mind, so we can start asking questions directly. And we actually ask the questions as if we are them. So it's just their permission that we can tap into their subconscious mind.
Absolutely. So I've already gotten permission from Chris today, who I'm going to work on. And she's also given me what we call the severity of what's going on with her. So we know, and she's given it as a 10. So 10 is about high as can. I will check that as well when I do it, but that is pretty much what she has said. So that's, yeah, when she's been having 3 smoothies a day. Yeah, so that's quite a lot. And she used to be totally addicted to Pepsi and Coke for about 45 years. And she stopped that just before Christmas one year. But now, as I said, with her dog passing on and, you know, just the grief that comes with that and the sadness and then looking for something to fill that gap, right? And make us feel better. So I have her permission. I will be her proxy. She's a level 10. And we're going to remove the trapped emotions by doing muscle testing.
Muscle testing, yeah. So I do my muscle testing like this. I have an agreement with my subconscious mind that when I link my fingers together and I think of the word yes, they link together and they just won't pull apart. And when I think about the word no, they just slip apart. It's very efficient.
Yeah, exactly. And sometimes I will use a pendulum as well, but I do find the pendulum takes longer. So when I'm working with someone, whether it's by phone, FaceTime, Messenger, now there's so many ways that we can connect, but I do mine like this: index and thumb together, and then I take my index and middle finger from the other hand, and that's a yes. So I'm going to ask, am I Dana? Am I Dana? And when I want to become Leslie, or sorry, not Leslie, didn't Leslie before, I want to become Chris, I'm going to ask the question that says, am I Chris? And I'm not connected yet. I just keep doing it till I can feel subconscious. Am I Chris? Am I Chris? So once I've got, that's a yes, I can feel that, then I can get to work on her there. And what we're going to be doing is I'm going to be using my magnets.
You're going to be using your magnets. You use these are my magnets today.
Yeah.
And you're going to use the magnets by wiping away the trapped emotion that's been popped out of the physical system and into the energetic system. And you're going to wipe along the governing meridian, which starts underneath the nose here and then goes all the way down to their tailbone. And you're just going to wipe 3 times. That belongs to them. Now, Dana, what are you wiping away? Is it the emotion that has been identified?
It is. So when you look in Dr. Bradley's book, he's got 60 emotions. He's pared this down from over 200 that he had. So we're going to go ahead. I'm going to ask the question, is it in column A? No. Is it in B? Yes. Is it even? No. Is it odd? And then if it says odd, then I'm going to go down. Is it 1, 3, 5? And I'm going to find where it is. If it's a 3 and it's in column B, then I'm going to look at those 5 trapped emotions there, which are confusion, defensiveness, grief, self-abuse, and stubbornness, and just see which one it is. And then by using the magnet, I will release that.
Mm-hmm. I'm just going to take a sip of water. Because it's very important when we're doing the emotion code work that the practitioner is hydrated. Whenever we're doing the work on the client and actually rolling the magnets down their governing meridian, we want to make sure that that client is hydrated as well.
Exactly. So we are going to be talking about, as I say, so this technique could be used if you're drinking too many pops or just things that are not good for you. Even juice has a large amount of calories in it. So Helena's going to talk about that, some from that perspective, but just also what it's doing to your body. It's not terribly healthy, and definitely not, even though they tell us the smoothies are nutritious. Sometimes they can be, but 3 a day, no, that's not going to work. So I'm going to go ahead and start the work here. And Helena, you just go ahead and provide that education piece, because I know you do a lot with weight loss with your clients, and this comes up big time for that. So you go ahead and I'll go ahead.
Great. So yes, smoothies. Wow, they can be so nutritious, like Dana says, but they can also be incredibly calorie rich. carbohydrate rich,
Okay.
and that is the sugar contents, and also um, um, just there's just calories, and it's important to know which kind of calories are really great to burn and which calories will stick with us. As with all my weight release clients, I like to ask them, so how much excess inventory would you like to release? And they're like, oh, well, that's a unique way of looking about and thinking about the fat that's on the body. And basically what it is the fat that's on the body is stored inventory. It's food or beverages that have been consumed that have not been used up as energy. So just a little story about me and smoothies. I loved smoothies. I was making this delicious smoothie, and it had protein powder in it, it had hemp seeds in it, it had um, flaxseed husks, it had my berries, it had a banana in there, and it had almond butter. I put some greens in there. I put some MCT oil or coconut oil. And I'm sure there were even a few more things in there. Well, one day, a friend of mine says, well, how many calories are in that smoothie? I'm like, well, I don't know. It's just full of good stuff. And I did a calculation. My smoothie had 1,200 calories. Did not even know it because I was just busy drinking it. You know, a sip here, a sip there. And the interesting thing is now some people would use a smoothie as a meal replacement instead of having food. Well, I was having my smoothie with my meal because I was just trying to get all the good stuff in there. So once I pared down my smoothie to the protein powder, mixing it with water, putting in much less berries because I didn't eat all the sweet, and just became more mindful about what was going in there and tracking the calories with the carbohydrates. It's carbohydrates that are the ones that pack on the inventory onto the body. Carbohydrates are great for when you're super active and you need that energy, but so are good fats. You know, an avocado is a wonderful source of fat. Coconut oil in your coffee is really great, or sometimes even a little bit of butter. That's the grass-fed butter in the coffee. You never thought it would taste good, but it tastes really good. Great for the brain. Well, those smoothies that you're drinking, the beverages, the juices, the Starbucks beverages, all those sugars are just going into the body, and you're not really aware of them because you're drinking them. There's a big difference when we're taking in calories and we're chewing our food, like a crunchy salad with lots of different vegetables in there, with just a little bit of a good cold pressed oil and maybe a little lemon juice or a little apple cider vinegar or something like that for flavor. Your body has to chew, and your mouth is chewing, 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 and it's telling your brain that food is going in. But when you're drinking those smoothies, your body and your brain are not really registering that there are calories going in because you're just drinking it. So now Dana's working on the tracked emotions part about the smoothies, like why 3 smoothies? Why not just 1 smoothie? Well, that's what she's going to be talking about in a little while, what she's releasing. And I know that from my clients and for myself that the emotion code works wonderfully for releasing cravings for food or habitual foods. Myself, I released cheesies. Those are very Canadian. They were tasty. Now I have absolutely no desire for them. I can pick up the package. I can walk by it at the store. I just don't want it. Other things such as Tim Hortons extra large hot chocolate. I used to be drinking those about 4 times a week. Every time I got into my car and drove to a certain place, I would pick up a Tim Hortons extra large hot chocolate. That thing had about, I think, 700 or 800, 900 calories in one beverage I was just drinking. What a big change that made with my excess inventory when I released that. anytime that you find yourself just doing something in excess or habitual, just automatic, great thing to do is just take a moment and say, do I really want this? Is this what I want? Or is it something else that I want? And often it's an emotional thing. So, first of all, have your sip of water, get some fresh air, take a deep breath, take your mind away, distract it for a few moments, and see if that just doesn't break the routine of automatic behaviors. Just be mindful. Please be mindful of the calories that are hidden in the beverages that people are drinking, and just switch up to water, maybe with a little fresh lemon, fresh lime, maybe some cucumber, and just have that. And remember the proteins and the good fats. They satiate and keep you satisfied. So, Dana, what did you find today?
Well, just listening to the end of that, it's funny that you said that about the calories because I don't do it now, but it used to be my go-to summer drink. I used to like, not that I drank a lot, but on summer, whatever. Love mojitos in Mexico. But I mean, they are loaded with sugar, right? Like
Yeah.
loaded. But my go-to drink, not in the Caribbean or wherever, Cuba or whatever, used to be gin and tonic.
Mm.
Until one
Gin.
day I looked at not just the gin, but the tonic
Yeah.
was like, I don't know, 26 grams of sugar or something. I went, it's not even sweet.
I know, and it's
Right?
like having a can of pop. Isn't it
Yeah,
interesting?
it was crazy. I thought, nah, I'm not going to do that. So tried it with a bit of water. Didn't like it. Tried it with ginger ale, didn't like it, and I hardly ever have it anymore. But yeah, all right, let's get back to Chris. So what I found, uh, again, a lot of this overeating. I'm not sure what you said, Helena, but I'm sure we would concur that there's a lot of heart wall trapped emotions that go on, and the eating. In this case, with Chris, her dog Sammy had passed, which was very, very sad. I mean, I really felt the sadness in her, and so when I started to work on her, you know, some of the information she gave that she was grieving the loss of the dog and felt lonely. So the first emotion that came up was sadness, and so I released that, and then it was shock.
Mm.
The shock of the dog, when you reach that decision where you have to put it gently down and let it move on. I've done this with several people. I really like working with animals because I'm just able to see the light in them and know that they're always going to be around us, but physically their time is done on the earth, and they are here to bring us great joy, and also all animals are healers as well. So when we're open to that, some really amazing things can go on. So I really felt Chris's loss. So the sadness, the shock, the vulnerability, feeling very raw and very open in her heart. And then a funny one, which I find is a bit funny, wishy-washy. So, it's kind of a lighter, it seems like a more fun emotion rather than some of them that are so heavy. So there's a little bit of wishy-washiness in there. I'm not sure what that was about. And then the trapped emotion of lost came up. And I had to ask a few more questions because when I do this, do I need to know more? And it's a yes, and I will work from an age or see if it's inherited. So something around Chris when she was 35 or 36 was a big loss in her life, and she felt very lost. Whether she had a career change, relationship, I don't know. Then the trapped emotion of helplessness I removed. And then the last one that came up was the trapped emotion of vulnerability, which she already had. You can have the same trapped emotion many, many times because it gets triggered. If it's not released, it just keeps on growing in your body. But this one was inherited from her mother, the trapped emotion of feeling vulnerable. So I was able to remove that. And also I was texting Chris earlier in the day today, and I asked if she would like a distance Reiki session, and she said yes. So I just tapped into that. But what I saw was actually her with Sammy, her with her dog, and just a lot of, beautiful pink and white light around that. So, Sammy's always with her, and our pets always will be. That's just that, it's just I'm not saying it's just energy flippantly, but we're all energy, and we just move into a different uh,
Vibration,
yeah,
frequency.
vibration, frequency, and also form, right? We take a different energetic form from there. So that's what I find out. So we'll find out how Chris feels from that, and if that's helpful to her. So our next episode is episode 31, stress eating. So we're going to work on someone there that has some real issues with overeating, too large portions, that sort of thing. So, Helena, how can people get a hold of you?
People can reach me through my website, which is flourishhypnosis.com/emotion-code, or you can find me at thestopsmokinglady.com. I have a Facebook page. I also have a YouTube channel.
Actually, Helena, when you say that about the stop smoking, I know from people that I know that smoke, I've never been a smoker, but I hear it constantly, even when I'm working with someone with weight loss. Oh, well, I stopped smoking, so that's why I'm heavy now. Right? And I'm
No.
sure you hear that all the time because people in their mind have decided that, okay, well, I'm going to give up smoking, some of them, and I'm going to get heavy, right? And then they kind of just accept the weight gain, but
So there is absolutely no correlation between stopping smoking and gaining weight. When I work with people in a hypnotic trance-like state and they make a change on the subconscious level, and we make sure that we are releasing, reframing, dealing with their other reasons
yeah,
for smoking. You see, when you truly really understand and deal with the little voice in the back of your head that says, have a cigarette, and that goes away because you just decide that's not something that you ever do again, then there's no voice in your head going, put something in your mouth, put something in your mouth. So
yeah,
people that have gained weight when they stop smoking, it's because they haven't actually dealt with the reason why they were smoking in the first
yeah,
place.
exactly. Yeah. And I find that with weight loss in general, right? It's often goes down to the heart wall and relationships, and yeah, so much does go back to relationships,
Oh,
with yourself. Yeah.
it's every session I have when if it has to do with smoking and or weight loss, it is always unresolved issues regarding current and past relationships.
Yeah,
Always.
absolutely. And
Mhm.
then sometimes too, do a little bit of that inner child work, like what went on there, what were the parents saying, and siblings, and it's pretty big. I mean, we as humans we are very complicated, but Helene and I do keep these techniques as simple as we can. They we don't have to know your whole story. In fact, we don't really want to, but we
No.
do need to know a little bit, just like with Chris, right? Like
Yeah.
what's gone on? How can I help you, right?
And Dana, just when we do our Emotion Code Divas shows, we only have a few minutes to do
Hmm.
a session. But when we work with people, we're working with people for 30 minutes to 45,
Yeah.
often 3 times.
Hmm.
That way we can really get into the work and really release and uncover. And it's a process.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's when people find the absolute long-lasting relief or change in their life.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point because as we just said, it's never people come to us with one issue, but once we start to, peel those petals off the rose and we're looking for that rosebud of where do they find peace and contentment, and it takes a while.
Yeah.
And that's why we do, often I'll have people check in monthly just, with something that's come up, and it's once we've had our 3 sessions or more, depends on what we're working on, then I find that because they trust me and we know it works, they trust the process, that things can be released fairly quickly.
Dana, all this talk about food and smoothies, I am just famished. But you know what I'm going to choose to do? I'm going to choose to have some protein first, hydrate myself, and And then I won't want the carbohydrates and the extra sugars and building an inventory on my body. Don't want the inventory on my body.
Yeah. All right then. So that's it from the Emotion Code Divas today. Thanks so much for watching. Please share. And you may notice on occasion we do have some little technical difficulties. So we like to get back and record what we can just so we keep people up and it's not confusing to where we're at with the show. So bye for now.
Bye.